Good morning and the very warmest of welcomes indeed to today's webinar session, to today's iOBB business webinar. Now, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben and I am going to be presenting today's webinar session to you. A little bit before we get kicked off for today's session, if you do have any questions at all whatsoever, please do feel free to ask them. It's always a pleasure to answer any questions that you may have, and you can get them answered during the Q&A segment at the end of today's webinar session. We're going to run that for about 5 minutes or so at the end of today's webinar. It's always a fantastic session. We always get a few questions, so please do feel free to ask them. If you would like to ask a question, you're more than welcome to do so using the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. Okay, so it's a kind of box that will illuminate in gray when you hover over it, and it should say Q&A at the bottom of the screen there. Okay, so whilst we're waiting for everybody to join us, a big warm welcome to those of you that are on with us just now. It's an absolute pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time whilst we are approaching the 10 o'clock mark. Now, one more final thing before we get kicked off for today's session. In between each of the 3 core topics that we're going to speak about today, we are also going to take a brief pause in between each one to make sure that you have a chance to ask any questions and indeed jot down any notes on the slide. So I'll leave the slide up whilst we pause to make sure that you have a good opportunity to ask away with any questions that you might wish to ask as well. All right, so without further ado, we are at the 10 o'clock mark. Welcome to those of you just joining us now. Let's switch off the video camera so you won't be able to see my face anymore, but you should still be able to hear my voice. And in just a moment's time, you should be able to see the presentation that we have for you today up on your screen there as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about winning the trust of your prospects today. Okay, it's a very, very big topic of conversation. It's one that's very, very important when it comes to really understanding how we establish a strong basis for our business and how we can essentially win the trust of our prospects. And if you're not completely familiar with what a prospect is, it's a person that may be interested in doing business with you based on some facts or, some research that you've done to establish whether they may or may not be interested in your business. All right. So winning the trust of your prospects, how to sign clients continuously in a business. Okay. And this is very, very important, whether you're a current business owner, whether you're just looking at getting into the digital marketing world, the digital agency world. It's very, very much an important topic of conversation and one that's absolutely wonderful to be able to cover today. So my name is Ben. I'm a business coach and I specialize in working with small businesses, just like many of you on here, to help them achieve stability and growth. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. And I'm absolutely delighted to be on here doing this with you today. So discussion points, 3 core topics from today. Number 1, beginning with rapport. Okay, so we're going to talk about how much of an effect rapport has between you and your prospect and how it's going to affect not only your relationship in the beginning, but how it's going to affect your relationship long term. Number 2, we're going to talk about hearing them out. Okay, we're going to figure out why this is so important. And number 3, overcoming their fears and concerns. And this is a massive one. Okay, this is extremely important to understand when it comes to the sort of end of the sales meeting, shall we say. And it's very, very important to understand that actually we are listening to what their fears and concerns are. And we're not only listening, we're helping them overcome them. Okay, so let's begin. Beginning with rapport. Now, a prospective client is extraordinarily unlikely to buy from you if they don't feel as though they are connecting with you. Okay, now let's just think about this for a second. Have you ever been in a situation where you have been considering buying something or you've been looking at buying something and you just don't feel like the salesperson is really that passionate about it? You don't feel like they're really that interested in having the conversation with you. You're asking questions and you're just getting short answers or even one-word answers are coming back to you, and you're just thinking to yourself, I do kind of want the product or the service, but the person selling it, they're just not that passionate. I'm not really feeling as if they care. Now, at this stage, if it's something small, like a small electrical appliance, let's say a new toaster, for example, you're probably going to buy it, especially if you're in a supermarket and, you're talking to, the sales associate about it. And they don't really know too much and this and that. You're just sort of like, okay, well, I need a new toaster anyway. That's fine. But let's say that you're looking at buying a new fridge for £2,000 and it's a massive purchase and it's one that you've been talking about and thinking about for ages and ages and ages. And you've been really, really excited to go to the electrical appliance store and go and get this fridge today. Okay. And you're asking questions and the sales associate is just saying, yeah, no, it's a good fridge. It's big and it's cold and, it'll make ice. And, it's good. It's a good fridge. Okay. Now, you're just not really feeling it at that point in time. Okay. You're not connecting with them. They're not asking you why you're looking at a new fridge, what's going on with your old one, why this fridge specifically, what you're going to be using the fridge for. Do you hold a lot of frozen food? Do you eat a lot of fresh food? Do you like it when your drinks are refrigerated? Do you want a cold water dispenser? Do you want ice? All of these things, and if the person was a little bit more passionate and they said, this fridge is amazing. Okay, one of the many, many, many things that it does, it has a smart screen on the front. It'll tell you when food's going out of date if you wanted to. You can log that, you can log this. You can fit up to X amount of frozen items in there. It can hold X amount of kilograms of food. All these amazing things. Now, how different is the conversation? Okay. And how much better do you feel? You're excited about the product. Okay. It's the same product. The product hasn't changed, but the whole persona has. Okay. The whole feeling around the conversation has. So as well as a significant improvement in their business, okay, we're going to go back to digital marketing now, but that's a great example to use. A prospect is also evaluating the person selling to them to see if they would be a good fit going forwards. So in a service-based business, you are going to be spending a good amount of time with your clients, okay? And they're going to be spending a good amount of time with you. So they're not only evaluating the caliber of your service, they're also evaluating who you are as a person, who you are as a business owner, and who you are as a service provider, okay? Now, let me give you an example. We're in the prospecting meeting, okay? Well, we found the prospect, we're in a sales meeting, we're having a chat back and forth, and I'm the service provider, and all of you lovely people are the prospects, okay? Now, if I'm trying to present my service and I say, yeah, like from time to time, we'll do, the odd paid ads campaign. And if a client asks for it, we'll just, possibly decide maybe to put something into action. We've done it a few times before. The clients have had good results. Everybody's pretty happy with it, No, you're just not getting that energy from me, are you? And is that somebody that you would want to work with going forwards in the long term? Or would you want to work with this person? So let's try that again. First of all, I genuinely appreciate you asking because it's actually something we've been working on for a very long time. Paid ads are something that we do take very, very seriously, and we'd only be looking to run paid advertising campaigns if it was appropriate for your business. But not only that, in addition to that, I also want to make sure that when we do decide to run paid ad campaigns for your business, we make sure that it's the right ones for you. We optimize them continually to make sure that we're getting the absolute peak results that we can for you going forwards. So you will be in continuous contact with me, and I'll be in continuous contact with you to make sure that everything is going as well as it possibly can. Now, is that somebody that you would want to work with long term? My guess is going to be yes. Okay. If you had the choice between person one to work with and person two to work with, I would guess you're going to go with person two. Why? Because they're enthusiastic, they care, they're passionate, they have empathy, they're trying to build rapport. Now, building rapport needn't be complicated, okay? Simply focus on reading the personality of the prospect, okay? Now, this is what we have to look at doing. Figure out who it is you're speaking with and figure out how to best connect with them, okay? Rapport. If it's somebody that's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more not so keen to share loads of information, don't probe and probe and probe, okay? Just ask and say, look, if you don't mind me asking, what is it that we're trying to achieve here, okay? Now, if I'm noticing that their tone's a little bit more laid back, it's a little bit more quiet, it's a little bit more calm, I'm going to try and replicate by speaking like this, okay? And I say, look, if you don't mind me asking, let's just talk a little bit about what the goal is here so that I can potentially help you get towards that area, okay? Where do you want to be and why? Okay. Now, if it's somebody that's a little bit more energetic, a little bit more, really, really wants to get into the deep dive of the conversation, they want to talk about money, they want to talk about goals, they want to talk about where they want to be, I'd say, perfect. So what's your goals? Tell me, let's figure out how we can get there together. Okay. Now, you see, I'm matching the same personality within reason. I'm not completely changing myself, but I'm trying to blend in with the conversation. I'm trying to make sure that I'm matching the energy, I'm understanding the personality there, and I'm not pushing in the wrong areas at the wrong time, okay? Now, understanding how the prospect thinks, acts, and behaves as far as possible will help you build this natural rapport, okay? How does the prospect think? What are their goals? What do they want to achieve? What do they think about you? If you do something, a certain action, or say a certain sentence, how are they going to react, okay? And by that, I mean, we're going to absolutely, skyrocket this business to the moon. Okay. If I say that to somebody who's excited and energetic, they're going to love that. If I say that to somebody who's a little bit more laid back and a little bit more quiet, then it's not going to click with them as well. Okay. You see what I'm saying here? So we've got to think about how they think. How do they act? What's their body language doing? Are they excited and energetic, or are they laid back and calm? And how are they behaving? Are they interested in the conversation? Are they pulling away from the conversation? What's happening? Okay. Read the conversation. Read what the person on the other side of the table or the other side of the screen is doing. Okay. So that draws us to a close on topic number one. As we discussed earlier, I'm going to give you a brief pause now to take a moment. Please do jot down any notes, and please do feel free to ask any questions. Thank you for the questions so far. I'll get them for you at the end, and I'll see you again in just a moment. Perfect. So let's move on to topic number two now, hearing them out. Okay, so we're having this conversation during the sales meeting. What are we doing? The next step to winning the trust of your prospective client is ensuring that you are hearing everything that they have to say. Okay, now let's think about what I actually mean by this. Okay, somebody may be speaking, but you may not be hearing them. Okay, you may not be listening to them. Now, this is what I want us to think about. Okay, it's not to say that we'll be disinterested. It's not to say that we won't care about what they're saying. What I'm really talking about here is how what they're saying is going to affect what we say next. Okay, so hearing them out. Rule number one, never, ever, ever interrupt or speak over your prospect prematurely. Okay, now why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if you don't hear the full story, if you don't hear what they're actually trying to tell you, you run a massive risk of saying the wrong thing and potentially jeopardizing the entire deal. Okay, why? Because you could come in with completely incorrect advice. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'm the prospect, I'm speaking to a service provider. Now, as a prospect, I'm saying, in recent years, the business has been struggling. It's been struggling to win over clients. It's been struggling to win over prospects. We've been trying organic social media. Now, as a service provider jumps in and they say, that's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. We can run organic social media campaigns for you and we can turn that around straight away. Now, what's happened here? The service provider has jumped in prematurely because the next thing the prospect was about to say, until recently, our organic social media seems to have taken off and would be looking at paid advertising as a next step. Okay. What happened there is the service provider jumped in prematurely and went down completely the wrong channel. Now, not only have you offered the wrong service offering, you've also potentially shown your client, I'm not really interested in what you have to say. I'm more interested in trying to sell you what I have. And this is an extremely important lesson, and one that I'm sure all of us at some stage have to learn the hard way. Okay. Always make sure that you're listening and hearing what it is that they're saying. So your prospect will give you crucial information that could allow you to build empathy and an overall greater understanding of their current position. Now, something that I would love for us to consider is not only the service that we could offer to help a business in a particular situation, but also how that's going to affect their business long term. Okay. And in order to do this, we have to gain a full understanding of the current position that they're in. Okay. How are they feeling? What are they thinking? What's going to make them happy? What's going to help them hit their goals? How do we get them out of the situation that they're in? Okay. Now, often we do have a solution in the form of a service-based product that we can offer them, okay, to help them move, but we need to understand why that's happening. And now, when you begin thinking about the why, the whole conversation changes and it becomes a lot more powerful, okay? It takes it from, you want paid ads, I'll give you paid ads, to we want to build a massive, massive business that helps a lot of people, and paid ads is going to be our vehicle to get there. Okay. There has to be a why. Okay. Who are we helping? Why are we helping them? What are we trying to achieve? What do we personally want to achieve as a business owner? What do we personally want to help our business owners with as a service provider? Okay. Once you begin to think about the why, the whole context changes, because somebody then believes that you are behind them on their mission. And this will be true if you genuinely care, if you genuinely think to ask questions to understand their current position. Okay. It's not just a point blank transaction. It's a much bigger vehicle that we're going to help. Well, we're going to help them with to achieve their goals. Okay. So with greater understanding of a prospect's position, it allows you to make a significantly more informed and targeted approach to the conversation as a whole. Okay. So when you are listening, when you're understanding, when you're empathizing, when you're building rapport, you can have a much more concise conversation. Okay. You can go in with a lot more precision on what you're saying. So you're not really doing so much discovery. You're not really guessing in the dark. Oh, do I offer paid ads? Do I offer social media? Do I offer organic social media? What do I do here? Okay. It's a lot more targeted. And somebody might say to you, okay, well, look, I've currently got 5 clients. We're trying to get to 10 by the end of the year. And you say, okay, well, how do we get from 5 clients to 10 clients in a 3-month window? What do we need to do to get us to that point? Okay. And it becomes a calculation instead of an estimation, an approximation, a guess, essentially. Okay. So, targeted approach to the conversation as a whole. Now, ask open-ended questions early on and answer each question with a follow-up question until that segment of the call comes to a natural close. Okay. Allow the prospect to lead the conversation, but you maintain control. Now, I know that's going to be a funny thing. You know, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Ben, what are you talking about? How can they lead and how can I maintain control? What I mean by this is allow your prospect to fully finish what they're saying on that specific topic before you divert the conversation somewhere else. Okay. So if somebody's talking about where their business is currently, don't cut them off early. Allow them to lead the topic of conversation on that one. And when it comes to a natural close, because they've stopped talking about it, you then control the conversation by picking up onto a new topic. Okay. It is a skill, and it's a skill that you'll build over time. The more sales meetings you have, the more webinars like this you attend, the more you'll begin to get a really, really good grasp of how to have a successful sales meeting. Okay, so that brings us to a close on topic number 2, and I'll see you again in just a moment for topic number 3. Perfect. So let's move ourselves on to topic number 3, overcoming their fears and concerns. Okay, so the final step in assisting your prospect is proactively overcoming any fears or concerns they may have about working with you. Okay, now this is what I want us to talk about. Okay, because the key word here is proactively, right? What does proactively mean? It means dealing with something often before or ahead of time. Okay, now how can we do this? Early on in the conversation, you hear your prospect talking about the fact that money may be a concern. You hear them talking about the fact that reliability may be a concern. Okay, now how are we going to proactively overcome these fears and concerns? Okay, so the prospect told you early on in the conversation that they used to work with a digital agency 2 years ago, but they were just impossible to contact. Every time they sent an email, it was 2 weeks to come back. They always picked up the phone to try and call them, and they never ever got a response. It was always going to voicemail. It was always going to leave a message and we'll call you back. Okay. if somebody has said this to you early on in the conversation, you needn't necessarily comment on it at the time, but I want you to log this information so that halfway through the conversation, you can say, look, one of the things that we pride ourselves on in the team that I've really worked hard to build, we just really want to take care of our clients. You know, we make sure that we email back within 24 hours in any working day. We make sure that if we do promise to call you back, that we genuinely do call you back within 4 hours, okay, or 2 hours or 1 hour, whatever that is, all right? Overcome these concerns proactively. Why? Because you've been listening, okay? You've heard what they've said. Now, this is a crucial part. If you hadn't really been paying attention, you might not say something like this. So when it comes to you trying to do the close, they have still got these concerns. They're still concerned that you may be the same as their previous agency, that you might be, you know, not particularly interested in helping them and you're just trying to get their money, okay, which isn't true, but they may believe that, okay, and that's not what we want them to believe. So don't be afraid to hit any of these concerns that they may have head on, okay? Even bring them up proactively yourself, even if they've not necessarily discussed the fact that, you know, money might be an issue, or that, you know, time might be an issue, or customer service might be an issue. Say, look, we really strive to be one of the more affordable digital agencies here, and customer service is really at the forefront of our organization. It's something that we absolutely prioritize because we understand that when you have a question, you want to answer it, and we get that, okay? Don't be afraid to hit these concerns head on. Now, if you do that, you're gonna proactively overcome an awful lot, okay? Now, I'm not saying for you to say to the prospect, I bet you're worried about money, but don't worry, we're affordable. It's not that at all, okay? We're just going to talk about us. We're not going to project any concerns onto the client, okay, or onto the prospective client at this stage. We're just going to talk about who we are and what we do and what our mission is, okay? So when we have an opportunity to briefly talk about ourselves, and don't spend the whole call talking about yourself, just a brief segment of the call, because as we've said in previous webinars, we always want the prospect to do most of the talking, okay? Hit these concerns head on, but do so by talking about yourself. Why are you cost effective? Why are you a good option? Why do you offer great customer service? Okay. Imagine you're creating an advert. Now, by bringing up fears and concerns proactively, you show the prospect that you're completely transparent and willing to overcome any weak spots in your business. Okay. Now, this is such an incredible thing. Okay. Because when there is no posturing, when there is no, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best, and here's why. All we say is we try our best. We're going to do our best. Okay. You're being completely open, completely transparent, and completely honest about who you are and what you're doing and what your mission is. Okay. You're bringing up fears and concerns that your prospect may have, and you're hitting them head on. You're doing so really, really, really proactively. Okay. You're showing the prospect that you're completely willing to overcome any weak spots in your business. You're saying, look, if we don't get back to you within 24 hours, call me, tell me, and I will fix it. Okay, I'll make sure that you get the customer service and the attention that you need because I care that much about my business and helping people. And in following each step throughout this webinar, you'll find yourself building trust with any prospect in a much more simplified manner. Okay, you will find that you click with them, you'll find that you have an easier time building rapport because you're showing more empathy, because you're asking open-ended questions, you're allowing your prospect to lead the conversation whilst maintaining control. It's a fantastic place to be, okay? It's a very, very, very effective sales method, okay? And it's one that I would strongly advise using. So that brings us now to the end of topic 3, and therefore the end of the core webinar segment. So what we're going to do next is, after a brief pause now so that you can just jot down any final notes that you have and ask away with any final questions, we're going to do a recap, and then we're going to get onto the Q&A segment of today's webinar session. So I'll rejoin you again in just a moment. Perfect. So let's recap today's session. Number 1, you need to connect with your prospect. It will enhance your chances of being able to make the sale. Number 2, you need to win the trust of your prospect. If you don't have their trust, it's very unlikely you'll be able to close. And number 3, don't be afraid to tackle concerns head on. Okay, it's something that we absolutely have to hit head on, because if we don't, we may find that our prospect still has concerns at the end of the session. Okay, so as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to attend today's session. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you about this excellent topic. Now, if you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you're more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk and book a call at a time that suits you. So if you follow this link, you'll see a calendar just like this one that'll allow you to book a time and a date. Now, whilst I leave this up on screen for you, I'm going to grab some questions that I have from today. So the first question that I have, I don't find it naturally easy to empathize with people. Perfect. Okay, great. So look, going forward, simply listen to what the prospect is saying. Okay, if you're in a sales meeting scenario, just listen to what they're saying. Potentially even start looking for a similar business situation that's happened to you. Okay, or at the very least, look at how they're feeling. How do they feel when they're talking about this? What's happening? What's going on? Are they showing emotion? Are they, displaying clear signs of frustration? What's happening? Okay, try and empathize with whatever is going on at that point in time. Okay, but it's going to take a bit of practice, so just keep working on it. And a really, really good tool for this is to just find yourself as much as you can a similar situation that you've been in yourself. And often if somebody's talking about a situation that's happened to them business wise and you've got something similar, it makes it much easier to connect with the empathy there. A fantastic question. I hope that helps. Next question, how would you proactively overcome a price concern? Brilliant. Love that. Okay. So a really, really good way of overcoming a concern on price, especially in digital marketing and digital agency world, discuss return on investment. Okay. Digital marketing is an investment. It's not an expense. So if somebody's looking at investing £300 a month into a paid ads campaign or investing a monthly fee with you, they're doing it for a reason. Okay. Now the ROI might not always be strictly financial. It could be, look, if you invest with us in, we're writing blogs, for example, we would hope that you have an extra X amount of visitors. Now, we never guarantee it, but we would hope that you have an extra this amount, roughly extra amount of traffic and visitors to your website, for example. Okay. Always discuss the fact that it's an investment. It's an investment in their business. Okay. Any more questions from today? No, looks like that is it. Okay, well, as always, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us on today's session. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.